Moving on, I've been looking forward to doing this segment all day. Disney's Mulan is officially available for purchase for $29.99 on the Disney Plus platform. After repeatedly delaying the theatrical release here in the United States because of the whole coronavirus thing, Disney chose to put it online rather than wait. Now, for more on this, we have a classic East Coast West Coast roundtable. Hatem Dhiab, managing partner at Gerber Kawasaki, joins us from beautiful Santa Monica, California, and Cheddar's own Michelle Castillo, breaking it down for us from Brooklyn, New York. Wow, when do we ever get to do Brooklyn to Santa Monica? Hatem, I do want to start with you, and thank you very much for taking the time. The international market has grown significantly in recent years for Hollywood films. And this year, of course, the United States largely has to sit out this big name franchise, despite the fact that it was so highly anticipated. What do we need to see overseas for the theatrical release of Mulan to still be considered a success for Disney?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. It's about China. Mulan is really, they got a redo. They tried it in 1998. It was a flop. It's a very important story, folklore story in China. Kids grew up kind of talking about Mulan, and Disney really has a chance to redo this story and give it like the Chinese flair that it needs to have. And they worked really hard. They spent a lot of money. They spent 5 years to do it, and I think they got it right. I haven't seen the movie yet, but the reviews are. It's really stayed true to what it needs to do, and China is a huge for Disney in the future, and that's what they're doing it.
Michelle, my friend, let's go to you here for this next one. Mulan was released onto Disney Plus stateside, but it does have this rather steep $30 price tag to it. Do you think this is a gamble that's going to end up paying off here for Disney instead of waiting a bit longer, maybe even several more months, in order just to release it directly into theaters, pending, of course, success fighting the coronavirus?
I do think it's going to be a great gamble for Disney. Let's think about it this way. So if people are desperate for new content, and the last movie that came out that was really aimed towards all audiences was Trolls World Tour, and that did phenomenally. That did almost $100 million just from direct sales. It also gives Disney a bigger cut of the profits. So Mulan is interesting. Right now on the international markets, I think especially in Asian markets like China, Disney's only going to get about a quarter of the box office total. Traditionally in the U.S., distributors get about 50%. Tenet, which just came out from Warner Brothers, they were able to negotiate 60%. So it's a big win for Disney, even if the numbers don't come out that huge, because they're going to get so much of that $30 price tag directly into their profits, and that's revenue they desperately need with closing of parks and also the closing of the box office for the majority of their movies.
Hatem, all around the world, Disney, of course, as a franchise, was forced to close parks. It has taken, like pretty much every other company in the world, a massive hit to revenue this year. How critically important is it going to be for the House of Mouse to have Mulan be a smash success?
Oh, it's huge. We didn't actually even anticipate that they're going to have this kind of revenue from a movie release on Disney Plus. We've seen in the last quarter the revenues were down 1.6 billion from their parks. So just to have a movie like Mulan, I don't know if they do 5 million releases, that's what, $150 million. That'll be huge. And also, I think it sets the stage for a new way of releasing movies and charging extras for them. You know, for the only time in history, they can actually get 100% of the revenue of releasing these movies digitally, and I mean that's a huge thing for Hollywood. It's bad for movie theaters. I mean, if I was a movie, I think many of them are very, very unhappy with this. So it's really changed the landscape in Hollywood. And as Michelle has said, you know, this is just something super, super exciting.
Michelle, there's a very real representation and inclusivity angle to this as well. A few weeks gone, fast forward, we spoke with Elaine Lowe from Variety, and she points out to say, you got a lot of Asian Americans in this country who were so hopeful through the lens of representation to have a massive theatrical release where they could see people who look and reflect them up on the big screen, but we are now not going to get that because of Disney's decision to push this project specifically over onto Disney Plus. There's an argument to be said that maybe Disney should have waited, especially because of that part of the conversation. Should they have? And what are your thoughts on this debate?
So I have to agree with Hatem when he said earlier that Disney was really looking at China and really wanted to work with China to release this movie. I actually think Disney's main market for this is really the Chinese audience. So while they know that there's going to be a lot of nostalgia factor for the U.S., they still can get that big push from Chinese box office. Remember, it is being released in theaters in China. The first Mulan actually was banned initially from China, and this time Disney took a lot of pains. They shared the script with the Chinese government. They actually did a lot of test screenings in China and used a lot of that input to finish the final edit, including removing some controversial scenes where Mulan kisses her love interest in the movie. So I do think that what Disney was thinking about was overall they needed a profit this year, and if they can get that Chinese box office and then get the bonus from the Disney Plus audience here, it's still a win for them, even though it could have been a bigger win maybe considering how big Crazy Rich Asians did in the box office and the need for representation.
For sure. Hatem, my final question to you. There are some controversies on the backdrop of the story. For instance, the star of the film last year saying that she supports Hong Kong police. There's some calls to now boycott the film. What sort of impact could a socially driven boycott have on the franchise?
I mean, that's also the downside of trying to work with China, right? There's a lot of issues, democracy and so forth. I think Disney stays above that. You know, I don't think the boycott is going to be that big. This movie has the first female director too, female Chinese lead. It's, you know, I think there's a lot of positive for it where I don't see any boycott really seeing it. But if I can add something is the fact that Disney has adapted to coronavirus and is able to do this, you know, is really, really majestic because they need the revenue. They need to be thinking outside the box, and their parks are not making the money. So for them to do this and just go for it, it is really admirable.
And Michelle, finally to you. I know you love all things sci-fi. I'm jealous to say that you've already seen the Christopher Nolan film Tenet. Give us your thoughts. Is it worth it? Yes or no?
So I drove an hour and a half to Connecticut to go watch Tenet yesterday, and I have to admit it's worth it. I'll give a caveat. I give it an 8 out of 10. I love sci-fi films. Okay. I love anything that has to do with time travel, alternate universe, parallel universe things, and I love really mind-bending, twisting things. So I do love the movie. I do think, though, that there was a couple things. From an audio standpoint, it was really hard to understand the dialogue. This is something I've seen in Reddit, and a lot of people have actually made memes about it. So I don't know if it's because I'm used to watching now with subtitles, but it does. Some people are actually rewatching it in theaters with those closed captioning glasses because it was so hard to understand about 30% of the dialogue. And for a $250 million movie, you want to make sure that people can understand what you're saying. The second thing is it is a very complicated narrative. If you're used to Christopher Nolan movies like Inception, you're going to be used to this. And if you like that kind of stuff, I say it's like Dark meets Source Code means John Wick meets James Bond. So if that's your kind of thing, go for it.
That's a great sell to me. Hatem Dhiab, I want to apologize. I did not quite get the name of your firm right. Managing partner at Gerber Kawasaki. Thank you very much for taking the time. Join us from Santa Monica out west. And, of course, our very own Michelle Castillo breaking things down for us in Brooklyn, New York. My special thanks to you both.